A man walked into a pet store and asked for a parrot. The owner pointed to three identical parrots. "The first one is $500, he said. "Why so expensive?" the man asked. "Because it can type, compose music, and solve math problems," the owner replied. The man looked at the second parrot. "That one is $1,000, the owner said. "What can it do?" the man asked. "It does all that the first one does, plus it can speak 5 languages fluently," the owner explained. The man, intrigued, asked about the third parrot. "That one is $3,000, said the owner. "Wow, what can it do?" the man exclaimed. The owner replied, "To be honest, I've never seen it do anything, but the other two parrots call it their boss." A teacher asks her class, "If there are 5 birds sitting on a fence and you shoot one of them, how many will be left?" A young boy raises his hand and responds, "None, because the gunshot would scare the others away." The teacher smiles and says, "Actually, the answer is 4, but I like the way you're thinking." The boy looks at the teacher and says, "I have a question for you now. There are 3 women eating ice cream, one is licking it, one is biting it, and one is sucking it. Which one is married?" The teacher blushes slightly and says, "I'm not sure. The one sucking the ice cream?" The boy nods and says, "No, the one with the wedding ring, but I like the way you're thinking." One day in a madhouse, the director arrives, with the decision to determine who will be the floor manager for all 3 floors. The one who is the smartest will be the boss of his floor. The director comes to the first floor and brings the TV and asks if anyone knows what this is. A madman answered and said, "I know, it's TV. Congratulations, you are the head of the first floor." The director comes to the second floor and brings a DVD player. And he asks if anyone knows what this is. One madman guessed what it was and became the floor boss. The director comes to the third floor and brings this. "I forgot what it's called? If you know what this is, congratulations, you are the boss of the third floor."
Why shouldn't you use a broken pencil? Because it's pointless.
3 men, stranded on a desert island, find a magical golden lamp. They rub it, and a genie appears, offering each one a single wish. The first man says, "I miss my family, I want to go home." The genie nods and sends him back home. The second man says, "I miss the comforts of civilization, I wish to be in a luxurious hotel." The genie grants his wish, and he disappears. Now, the third man, looking around at the empty island, says, "I'm lonely. I wish my friends were back here with me." And just like that, the other 2 men reappeared on the island.
"If there are any idiots in the room, will they please stand up," said the sarcastic teacher. After a long silence, one freshman rose to his feet. "Now then, mister. Why do you consider yourself an idiot?" inquired the teacher with a sneer. "Well, actually I don't," said the student, "but I hate to see you standing up there all by yourself."
A magician was working on a cruise ship in the Caribbean. His performances were always a big hit with the passengers, but there was one parrot on board that heckled him every night. The parrot would squawk, "It's in your sleeve," or "It's under your hat." No matter what trick the magician performed. The magician tried everything he could think of to silence the pesky bird, but it just wouldn't stop. One day, the ship hit an iceberg and sank. The magician found himself clinging to a piece of driftwood in the middle of the ocean, with the parrot perched on the opposite end of the wood. For days they drifted at sea, not saying a word to each other. Finally, the parrot looked over at the magician and said, "Okay, I give up. What did you do with the ship?"
A duck walks into a store and asks the cashier, "Do you have any grapes?" The cashier replies, "No, sorry, we don't have grapes." The next day, the duck returns and asks the same question, "Do you have any grapes?" The cashier, a bit annoyed, says, "No, I told you yesterday, we don't have any grapes. If you come back and ask again, I'll nail your beak to the floor." Undeterred, the duck comes back the next day and asks, "Do you have any nails?" The cashier, puzzled, says, "No, we don't have any nails." The duck grins and asks, "Well then, do you have any grapes?"
A young boy enters a barber shop and the barber whispers to his customer, "This is the dumbest kid in the world. Watch while I prove it to you." The barber puts a dollar bill in one hand and 2 quarters in the other, then calls the boy over and asks, "Which do you want, son?" The boy takes the quarters and leaves. "What did I tell you?" said the barber. "That kid never learns." Later, when the customer leaves, he sees the same young boy coming out of the ice cream parlor. "Hey, son. May I ask you a question? Why did you take the quarters instead of the dollar bill?" The boy licked his cone and replied, "Because the day I take the dollar the game is over."
3 friends, a doctor, an engineer, and a politician, were having a discussion about the oldest profession in the world. The doctor said,
"Well, medicine is the oldest profession. After all, when Eve was created from Adam's rib, that was a medical procedure."
The engineer shook his head and replied,
"No, it's engineering. Before Adam and Eve, there was chaos, and order had to be created from that chaos. That's what engineers do."
The politician laughed and said,
"You're both wrong."
The doctor and engineer looked puzzled. "How so?" they asked.
The oldest profession is politics. Think about it. Who do you think created the chaos in the first place?